How might we innovate? Now, there's a question that's posed on a daily basis in the business world. But what is new in St. Louis is a company that answers that question with cartoons instead of computers.
I don't think our brains have necessarily evolved to keep up with what electronics can do.
Second one, Todd.
So at Filament, a meeting and facilitation space, they say they are moving companies forward by drawing them, to some degree, into the past.
So I think it is back to the future. There's a longing for personal connection, especially when people are working virtually, they're working from home, they might be dispersed at multiple plants or client sites. There's a continuum, like you can fail a little on this versus spend 2 years and fail a lot.
The approach here is to bring people together in an environment where all the senses are stimulated, but not by the gadgets we spend so much time engaging with on most days. The gadgets are replaced by games, tech by toys, and screens by scribbling. Yes, a cartoonist is part of the process here, helping to visualize the concepts being discussed. All of this aimed at smarter, more efficient communication.
We're not teaching with Legos, we're not building silly exercises using the Jenga blocks on the table, but people need to interact and engage with things when they're talking. And so there's some people, whether you think about how they learn, I find myself talking with my hands, playing with Play-Doh. We've got magnets and other things. It's just a chance for people to engage all their senses. And so when we talk about being analog and doing things in person, it's really just being intentional about keeping the distractions at bay.
At Washington University in St. Louis, you'll find a believer in whiteboards in the person of Andrew Knight, an organizational behavior professor. He sees the demand for such an anti-tech environment coming out of the way technology has changed business.
The challenge there is that businesses today are organized in dramatically different ways. And so we have virtual organizations. We have virtual teams. So I think this is an interesting cycle that we see in many businesses that today are actually moving back to bringing folks in-house, drifting away from maybe an emphasis on virtual work, because we've now had a period of time where we can see some of the challenges that that's brought.
And the folks at Filament say their observations will tell you some of those challenges come from forgetting a few things about basic human nature.
We think a lot about how technology makes it easier to communicate. But the way we communicate with technology gets rid of all of the things that are cues for us to know, is someone listening to us? Do they understand us? The body language, the shoulders moving forward, the head nodding, it just disappears.
Dr. Knight sees the move as being on the right track based on human behaviors that are proven to lead to new ideas.
If we lose those serendipitous interactions with people at work, where we no longer just bump into someone, and we have to be more proactive in reaching out to people to gain their insights, then we lose some of that collaborative ideation that does happen in organizations.
Course correct now versus building an entire initiative and then going back at the end. Oh, failure was great. Well, $3 million later, failure doesn't feel as great.
Meanwhile, the client list at Filament is growing as businesses see a new and valuable approach to team building.
We had everybody in the company come. So it wasn't just a few people or the management team, it was everybody. So that definitely engendered kind of a whole group mentality of everybody had input.
So when people walk down our hallway, they go through a gigantic garage door. They're inspired by the toys and the games and the Legos and all the things that are here. And they're cued in from the very beginning that what's going to happen here is different.
For Innovations, I'm George Sells.